Modern warfare is loud. It is incredibly destructive. And above all else, it is completely undeniably bankrupting. Right now, the world's most advanced militaries are staring down the barrel of a kinetic stalemate. As we analyzed in our previous debrief, trading multi-million-dollar interceptors for cheap ballistic missiles is an economic death spiral. The math simply does not favor the defender, but ironically, it also paralyzes the attacker. When both sides possess layered, impenetrable defense grids, how do you actually win a war that refuses to end? You don't escalate by building a bigger bomb. You don't aim for the enemy's infantry. You simply turn off their country. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are predicting the terrifying next phase of global conflict. When traditional warfare fails to force a surrender, the escalation pivots to the Blackout Doctrine. It is a synchronized non-kinetic strike designed to paralyze a nation's infrastructure, communication, and logistics before a single boot hits the ground. This isn't science fiction. The weapons required to plunge an entire hemisphere into the dark ages don't use gunpowder. They use weaponized physics and malicious code. And they are already deployed. But to understand how you blind a superpower, we first have to look up, way up. You see, before you can dismantle a nation's power grid, you have to ensure they can't see you doing it. Modern militaries are utterly dependent on space. Every smart bomb, every naval destroyer, and every troop movement relies on the global positioning system and highly classified surveillance satellites. Space is the ultimate high ground. If you lose it, your military is instantly deaf, dumb, and blind. The escalation begins in orbit. But blowing up a satellite with a missile is messy, and it creates a debris field that could destroy your own assets. Instead, superpowers are utilizing direct energy, often referred to as Dazzlers. These are ground-based lasers that don't destroy the satellite. They simply blind its optical sensors. Imagine shining a high-powered laser pointer directly into a sniper's scope. The satellite is physically fine, but it can no longer see the battlefield below. Simultaneously, electronic warfare units initiate localized GPS spoofing. They don't just jam the signal, they broadcast a fake one. A naval fleet thinks it's navigating safe waters, but the spoofed GPS is quietly walking them directly into a minefield. Enemy drones suddenly lose their positioning and fly themselves straight into the ocean. By blinding the optical satellites and scrambling the positioning data, the attacker creates a fog of war so thick that the defending military can no longer trust its own instruments. But blinding the military is only phase 1. Phase 2 is burning out their brains. The Achilles heel of a modern, technologically advanced military is exactly that. It's technology. From 5th-generation stealth fighters to smart munitions, every single asset relies on microscopic, highly sensitive microprocessors. If you destroy the silicon, the weapons die. Enter the high-power microwave, or HPM weapon. Unlike the Hollywood version of a nuclear electromagnetic pulse, which requires detonating a warhead in the stratosphere to blindly wipe out a continent, HPMs are tactical, highly targeted, and terrifyingly precise. These systems project a concentrated cone of electromagnetic energy. When this invisible wave hits an electronic device, it induces a massive localized surge of voltage directly into the circuits. It doesn't blow the target up, but it burns out the entire motherboard. It turns a $100 million fighter jet into a very aerodynamic paperweight. Because HPMs travel at the speed of light, they cannot be outmaneuvered. And because they are non-kinetic, they don't trigger traditional early warning missile defense systems. You don't know you are being targeted until your screens go black. Militaries have successfully tested mounting these microwave emitters inside standard cruise missiles. This means an attacker can fly an HPM missile directly over an enemy command bunker, completely fry the servers, delete the data, and shut down the communications inside, all while leaving the building and the people inside it completely physically unharmed. It is the ultimate surgical strike. But deploying a highly advanced microwave missile is still an act of physical intrusion. Why go through the trouble of penetrating an enemy's airspace to destroy a power grid when you can just convince the power grid to destroy itself? You see, when the general public thinks of cyber warfare, they picture data theft, hackers stealing passwords, leaking classified emails, or freezing bank accounts. But in a massive military escalation, data is irrelevant. The goal is physical. Kinetic destruction using weaponized code. The most dangerous weapons on Earth right now target something called SCADA systems, short for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. These are the hidden industrial computers that run the physical world. They run water purification plants, nuclear reactor cooling pumps, natural gas pipelines, and the deep system worms designed to attack these networks are built to cross the airgap, infecting secure facilities that aren't even connected to the internet, usually via a corrupted USB drive carried in by an unsuspecting employee. Once inside, the malicious code doesn't steal information. It quietly takes control of the physical hardware. Imagine a line of code that infiltrates a massive power grid turbine. It feeds fake, normal-looking diagnostic data back to the human operators sitting in the control room, telling them everything is operating perfectly. Meanwhile, in the basement, the code secretly instructs the massive steel turbine to ignore its own safety governors and spin at twice its maximum capacity until the sheer physical stress literally tears the machine apart from the inside out. This isn't just theory. History has already proven this concept with malware that successfully destroyed uranium enrichment centrifuges by spinning them out of control. It takes a specialized engineering firm years to build and replace a destroyed high-capacity power turbine. If a cyber strike destroys 50 of them across a nation simultaneously, you don't just have a blackout, you have a systematic collapse. Which brings us to the ultimate prediction for an escalating modern war. Now, let's ask this question. What happens when you combine the blinding of satellites, the invisible strike of a microwave weapon, and the physical destruction of weaponized code? Well, that is when you execute the Blackout Doctrine. If the current chaotic missile exchanges prove too costly and strategically inconclusive, the next phase of warfare will be completely silent. 0 hour won't begin with a declaration of war. It will begin with a synchronized failure. First, deep system worms that have been lying dormant for years will activate, tearing apart the turbines of major power grids and shutting down civilian water supplies. Seconds later, GPS networks will be spoofed, blinding the military. Finally, stealth drones equipped with high-power microwave emitters will drift over military command bunkers, frying the backup generators and communication hubs. Within 72 hours, the target nation's logistics network evaporates. You cannot deploy troops if the trains don't have power. You can't coordinate a counterattack if the satellites are deaf. You cannot sustain a civilian population if the financial sector and food supply chains are erased. It is the perfect, terrifying checkmate. And that is the terrifying reality of modern escalation. You see, the victor is not the military with the most tanks or the loudest missiles. The victor will be the one who realizes that you don't need to destroy a nation to defeat it. You just have to unplug it. Thank you for joining the debrief. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the tactical realities and engineering breakthroughs shaping our future, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit that notification bell.